Dreams and Rejections. Introduction to Marcus Ellis. Marcus Ellis had always seen the world differently. Growing up in a small apartment in a bustling, economically challenged neighborhood in Chicago, Marcus found beauty where others saw despair. He was the child who would sit for hours with a pencil and paper, sketching the jagged lines of the city skyline, the chipped bricks of the buildings, and the faces of people on the streets, faces filled with stories of struggle and survival. His mother, Gloria, worked long hours as a nurse to support Marcus and his younger sister, Tasha. Despite their financial struggles, Gloria nurtured Marcus's passion for art, often bringing home leftover paper and crayons from her job. "Create something beautiful, baby," she would say, even when she was too tired to stand. Marcus took those words to heart, using his art to process the complexities of his life and surroundings. By the time Marcus reached high school, his talent had blossomed. Teachers and friends praised his work, describing it as raw, emotional, and unflinchingly honest. His art combined vibrant colors and abstract forms with deeply personal narratives, capturing the resilience of the human spirit. One of his most admired pieces, City Pulse, depicted the heartbeat of a city through a chaotic mix of reds, yellows, and blacks, all converging in a single glowing center. Despite his talent, Marcus understood the challenges he faced. The art world was an exclusive club, dominated by wealthy, predominantly white gatekeepers who often overlooked artists like him. But Marcus was undeterred. He believed in the power of his art to tell stories that mattered and to connect with people on a visceral level. "I'm going to get my work into a gallery," he told Tasha one evening as they sat in their tiny living room. "Not just any gallery, the best gallery." Tasha, ever supportive, grinned. "You will, Marcus. They just don't know what they're missing yet." Encountering gatekeepers. After graduating from high school, Marcus poured himself into his art, working part-time jobs to buy supplies and dedicating every spare moment to his craft. He built a portfolio that he believed showcased his best work, pieces that spoke to themes of identity, resilience, and hope. With his portfolio in hand, Marcus began submitting his work to galleries across the city. He carefully researched each one, selecting those he thought might appreciate his unique style and perspective. Each submission was accompanied by a heartfelt artist's statement, explaining the stories behind his pieces and his desire to connect with audiences, but the responses, when they came, were far from what he had hoped. Most galleries didn't bother replying, and those that did sent form letters that were polite but dismissive. "Thank you for your submission," one response read. "While your work is intriguing, it does not align with our current vision." Another was more direct. "We appreciate your passion, but our clientele tends to prefer more traditional styles." The most stinging rejection came during an in-person meeting with a gallery representative. Marcus had been invited to present his portfolio, and he arrived at the sleek, white-walled gallery with equal parts excitement and nerves. The representative, a middle-aged man in a tailored suit, flipped through Marcus's work with an air of disinterest. "This is colorful," the man said, pausing on a piece titled Fragments of Hope. "But it's not really what our clients are looking for. Have you considered selling at street fairs? I think you might find your audience there." Marcus left the meeting feeling deflated but not defeated. He knew his art had value, even if the gatekeepers of the art world couldn't see it. If anything, their rejections fueled his determination to prove them wrong. "You'll see," he muttered to himself one night as he painted a new piece. "One day, you'll see." Meeting Howard Livingston. Marcus's journey eventually led him to the Livingston Gallery, one of the most prestigious art spaces in Chicago. Owned by Howard Livingston, the gallery was known for its high-profile clientele and its reputation for launching the careers of promising artists. For Marcus, this felt like the opportunity he had been waiting for. He submitted his portfolio with a carefully written statement, explaining his vision and the inspiration behind his work. To his surprise, he received a call from the gallery's assistant, inviting him to meet with Howard Livingston himself. This could be it, Marcus thought as he prepared for the meeting. He spent days selecting his best pieces and rehearsing what he would say. He wanted to make a strong impression, to show Howard that his art deserved a place in the gallery. When the day arrived, Marcus walked into the Livingston Gallery with a mix of excitement and anxiety. The space was immaculate, its walls adorned with large, expensive paintings that radiated wealth and exclusivity. Marcus felt a pang of nervousness but pushed it aside as he set up his portfolio in the meeting room. Howard Livingston entered the room with an air of authority, his tailored suit and polished shoes exuding confidence. He was a tall man with sharp features and a commanding presence, the kind of person who seemed accustomed to having the final word. "Mr. Ellis," Howard said, extending a hand. "Let's see what you've got." Marcus presented his work with passion, explaining the stories behind each piece and his desire to connect with people through his art. He spoke about City Pulse, describing how it captured the resilience of his community, and about Fragments of Hope, which explored the tension between struggle and optimism. Howard listened in silence, his expression unreadable. When Marcus finished, he leaned back in his chair, a faint smirk tugging at the corners of his mouth. "Well," Howard said, his tone dripping with condescension. "This is interesting." Marcus felt a flicker of unease. "Thank you. I believe my work has the potential to resonate with a wide audience." Howard chuckled, shaking his head. "Resonate? Mr. Ellis, let me give you some advice. Art that resonates doesn't sell. Collectors want sophistication, not sentimentality." He gestured dismissively at Marcus's portfolio. "This isn't art, it's decoration. And frankly, it's not even the kind people would pay for." The words hit Marcus like a punch to the gut. He stared at Howard, struggling to process the blatant dismissal of his work. The other staff in the room exchanged glances, some smirking, others looking away uncomfortably. "Thank you for your time," Marcus said finally, his voice steady despite the lump in his throat. He gathered his portfolio and left the gallery, his mind racing with a mix of anger, humiliation, and determination. That night, back in his studio, Marcus sat staring at his unfinished canvas. The sting of Howard's words lingered, but they didn't break him. If anything, they fueled his resolve to prove Howard, and every other doubter, wrong. This isn't over, Marcus thought as he picked up his brush. Not by a long shot. A chance encounter. A community art show. After the humiliating rejection at the Livingston Gallery, Marcus Ellis spent weeks pouring his emotions onto canvas. Painting became both his solace and his weapon, a way to reclaim his confidence and express the raw energy of his struggles. His latest works were more vibrant and unapologetic than ever, each piece a defiant response to those who doubted him. One day, while walking through his neighborhood, Marcus noticed a flyer pinned to the bulletin board of a local cafe. It was an announcement for a community art show hosted by a grassroots arts organization that aimed to uplift underrepresented artists. The event promised an opportunity to showcase work alongside other emerging talents and connect with the local community. At first, Marcus hesitated. The rejection at the Livingston Gallery still weighed on him, and he wasn't sure he could face more criticism. But the more he thought about it, the more he realized that this show was an opportunity to present his art on his own terms, free from the pretentiousness of high-end galleries. The venue for the show was a repurposed warehouse, its raw brick walls and industrial beams lending a gritty charm to the event. Artists from all walks of life filled the space, each setting up their displays with a mix of nervous energy and excitement. The room buzzed with creativity, the air thick with the scent of fresh paint and the sound of conversations about technique and inspiration. Marcus chose a spot near the center of the room and carefully arranged his pieces. His centerpiece was Fragments of Hope, surrounded by smaller works that explored themes of resilience, identity, and transformation. Each painting seemed to pulse with energy, drawing the eyes of passers-by and sparking quiet murmurs of admiration. As the doors opened and attendees began to trickle in, Marcus stood by his display, observing the reactions of those who stopped to admire his work. Unlike the sterile atmosphere of the Livingston Gallery, the crowd here was diverse and engaged, their feedback genuine and heartfelt. "I love how raw and real this is," one woman said, pointing to City Pulse. "It feels alive." "Thank you," Marcus replied, a small smile breaking through his nerves. For the first time in a long while, he felt seen. Meeting Emily Carter. As the evening progressed, a woman entered the warehouse who immediately stood out. She was impeccably dressed in a tailored cream blazer and flowing black slacks, her salt and pepper hair pulled into a sleek bun. Her sharp eyes scanned the room with an air of discernment, pausing occasionally to study a piece more closely. Marcus recognized her almost immediately, Emily Carter, a renowned art collector and philanthropist whose reputation extended far beyond Chicago. Her collection included works from some of the most celebrated contemporary artists, and her endorsement had launched the careers of many unknown talents. The thought of someone like her seeing his work sent a jolt of excitement and anxiety through Marcus. Emily's steps slowed as she approached Marcus's display. Her gaze lingered on fragments of hope, her brow furrowing slightly as she studied the interplay of vibrant yellows and deep blues that symbolized the tension between struggle and optimism. "This is extraordinary," she said softly, almost to herself. Marcus, standing a few feet away, hesitated before stepping forward. "Thank you," he said, his voice steady but tinged with nervousness. "It's one of my more personal pieces." Emily turned to him with a warm smile. "And you are?" "Marcus Ellis," he replied, extending his hand. "I'm the artist." "Marcus," she said, shaking his hand firmly. "Your work is remarkable. It has a depth that's rare, emotional, raw, and unapologetically honest. Tell me, what inspired this piece?" Marcus explained the story behind Fragments of Hope, speaking about the challenges he had faced and the resilience he saw in his community. Emily listened intently, her eyes never leaving his as he spoke. When he finished, she gestured to the other pieces in his display. "And these? They all seem connected." "They are," Marcus said, gaining confidence. "Each one is a chapter in a larger story. It's about finding light in the darkest moments and using that light to keep moving forward." Emily nodded thoughtfully. "I'd like to purchase these 3, she said, pointing to Fragments of Hope, City Pulse, and Resilience Rising. "And I'd like to introduce your work to some people who can help you get the recognition you deserve." Marcus stared at her, stunned. "You really mean that?" "Absolutely," Emily replied. "Your work deserves to be seen, and I intend to make sure it is." They exchanged contact information, and Emily left the warehouse, her assistant carefully packing the paintings she had purchased. For Marcus, the encounter felt surreal, like a dream he hadn't dared to dream. The role of social media. True to her word, Emily didn't just purchase Marcus's art, she became its champion. The day after the community art show, she posted photos of his paintings on her Instagram account, which boasted over 3 million followers. Her caption was simple yet powerful. "Discovered an incredible artist, Marcus Ellis, at a local show last night. His work is raw, emotional, and utterly breathtaking. This is the kind of art that moves you. #MarcusEllisArt, #ArtThatMatters." The post went viral within hours. Art enthusiasts, collectors, and critics flooded the comments, praising Marcus's work and sharing their own interpretations of the pieces Emily had highlighted. Some described the paintings as revolutionary, while others called them a testament to the power of storytelling through art. By the end of the day, Marcus's inbox was overflowing with messages. Collectors wanted to purchase his work, journalists requested interviews, and galleries expressed interest in featuring his art. For the first time in his life, Marcus felt the tides turning in his favor. The attention wasn't just limited to the art world. Local and national media outlets picked up the story, intrigued by the narrative of an underdog artist breaking into an elite industry. Marcus found himself fielding calls from reporters who wanted to know more about his journey and the inspiration behind his work. The viral success also had a profound impact on Marcus's community. Young artists who had looked up to him felt inspired by his sudden rise, seeing his journey as proof that perseverance could overcome even the most entrenched barriers. Through it all, Marcus remained grounded. He reached out to Emily to thank her for her support, but she brushed off his gratitude with a laugh. "Your work speaks for itself," she said. "I just gave it a little nudge." A turning point. As Marcus sat in his studio one evening, reflecting on the whirlwind of events, he felt a deep sense of gratitude. The rejection he had faced at the Livingston Gallery now seemed like a distant memory, a stepping stone on the path to something greater. He began working on a new painting, a large canvas that seemed to glow with vibrant reds, oranges, and purples. He titled it Catalyst, a tribute to the moment that had changed everything. For Marcus, this was just the beginning. The road to success. Breaking into the mainstream. The viral success of Marcus Ellis's work was like a door flung wide open, inviting him into the elite art world that had once rejected him. The exposure from Emily Carter's social media post and her connections catapulted Marcus's career into a new realm. Within days, invitations began pouring in from prestigious art fairs and galleries, each one eager to showcase the artist who had captured the public's imagination. One of the first and most significant invitations came from the Chicago International Art Fair, an event Marcus had only dreamed of attending. Known for featuring some of the most influential artists of the modern era, the fair represented a critical milestone for Marcus. The email from the event organizers read, "Dear Mr. Ellis, your work has captivated us, and we are thrilled to invite you to showcase in the Emerging Voices Pavilion at the Chicago International Art Fair. We believe your pieces will resonate deeply with our audience." Marcus stared at the screen, rereading the words to ensure they were real. The opportunity was monumental, not just for the exposure, but for the validation of his vision. In preparation for the fair, Marcus threw himself into his work, creating new pieces that pushed his creative boundaries even further. One standout piece, Threads of Identity, was a sprawling canvas layered with textured, intersecting lines that symbolized the complexities of human connections. Another, Unbroken, depicted a fractured yet luminous figure, embodying resilience and transformation. When the fair opened, Marcus's booth quickly became a focal point. Visitors crowded around his display, captivated by the emotional depth and bold originality of his work. Critics lauded his ability to blend vibrant abstraction with deeply personal storytelling, calling his pieces a masterclass in narrative expression. One critic from the Art Times wrote, "Marcus Ellis's work is a testament to the power of art to heal and connect. His pieces are not just paintings, they are living, breathing stories that demand to be heard." Collectors, too, were enthralled. Several pieces sold within hours, and Marcus received commissions from prominent buyers, further solidifying his status as one of the art world's rising stars. The fair wasn't just a success, it was a turning point, marking Marcus's transition from a struggling artist to a recognized and celebrated talent. Finding allies. As Marcus's career gained momentum, the logistical and business demands of the art world became increasingly overwhelming. He quickly realized that while his passion lay in creating art, he needed someone to manage the complexities of contracts, negotiations, and scheduling. That's when Emily Carter introduced him to Robert Hayes, a seasoned and highly respected art agent with a reputation for representing socially conscious and visionary artists. Robert was known for his ability to balance the creative needs of his clients with the practical demands of the art world, and he immediately recognized the potential in Marcus. Their first meeting took place in a cozy cafe downtown. Marcus arrived with a mix of excitement and apprehension, unsure of what to expect. Robert, a man in his early 50s with a warm demeanor and sharp, discerning eyes, greeted him with a firm handshake and a genuine smile. "I've been following your journey, Marcus," Robert said as they sat down. "Your work is extraordinary, not just because of its technical brilliance, but because it has a soul. That's rare in this industry." Marcus was struck by Robert's sincerity. As they talked, Robert asked thoughtful questions about Marcus's goals, his inspirations, and his vision for the future. By the end of the meeting, Marcus felt a sense of relief. He had found someone who not only understood his art but also shared his values. "You have the talent," Robert said, leaning forward. "But navigating this world is tricky. My job is to make sure you stay true to your vision while reaching the heights you deserve." With Robert on board, Marcus's career accelerated. Robert negotiated lucrative contracts with galleries and art fairs, ensuring that Marcus retained creative control and received fair compensation for his work. He also introduced Marcus to a network of collectors, curators, and fellow artists who shared his commitment to authenticity and inclusivity. Under Robert's guidance, Marcus's art was featured in several high-profile exhibitions, including a solo show at the Whitney Museum of American Art in New York. The exhibit, titled Echoes of Resilience, was a critical and commercial success, drawing crowds and rave reviews. It was a dream come true for Marcus, but it was also a testament to the importance of having a strong ally in his corner, rejecting Howard's offer. As Marcus's reputation grew, so did the whispers about his success. It wasn't long before Howard Livingston, the man who had once humiliated Marcus and dismissed his work as unsellable, caught wind of his meteoric rise. Howard, whose gallery was struggling due to its outdated practices and dwindling clientele, saw an opportunity to revive his reputation by associating himself with Marcus. One morning, Marcus received an email from the Livingston Gallery. The message, written in Howard's typically polished style, was both congratulatory and opportunistic. "Dear Mr. Ellis, it has been incredible to watch your ascent in the art world. Your work is truly groundbreaking, and I would be honored to host a solo exhibition featuring your pieces at the Livingston Gallery. Please let us know how we can collaborate to make this a reality." Marcus read the email twice, incredulous. The audacity of Howard's offer was almost laughable. This was the same man who had dismissed him, mocked his art, and suggested he try selling at street fairs. And now, Howard was asking to profit from Marcus's success. Marcus forwarded the email to Robert with a single line, "Thoughts?" Robert's response came swiftly, "You don't need him, Marcus. Let your success speak for itself." The best response is no response at all. Though tempted to reply with a sharp rebuke, Marcus decided to take Robert's advice. He declined the offer through Robert, stating simply that he preferred to work with galleries that aligned with his values of inclusivity and progressiveness. The decision was liberating for Marcus. By rejecting Howard's offer, he sent a clear message: his success was his own, and he would not allow those who had dismissed him to benefit from his achievements. Empowering others. With his career flourishing, Marcus turned his attention to uplifting others. He began mentoring young artists from underrepresented backgrounds, sharing his experiences and offering guidance on navigating the art world. He also partnered with community organizations to fund art programs in underserved neighborhoods, ensuring that future generations would have the opportunities he had struggled to find. For Marcus, success was not just about personal achievement, it was about creating a legacy of empowerment and change. His story was proof that resilience, vision, and authenticity could overcome even the most entrenched barriers. Turning the tables. Learning about Howard's struggles. Marcus Ellis's journey to success had taken him far from the days when he was a struggling artist, dismissed and mocked by gatekeepers like Howard Livingston. Yet, as his career flourished, whispers about the decline of the once prestigious Livingston Gallery began to circulate in the art world. It was during a meeting with his agent, Robert Hayes, that Marcus first heard the full extent of Howard's troubles. Over coffee in a bustling downtown cafe, Robert casually slid a file across the table, his expression unreadable. "What's this?" Marcus asked, picking up the file. "Just some interesting intel," Robert replied. "Take a look." The file contained financial reports, news clippings, and commentary from collectors, all painting a bleak picture of the Livingston Gallery. Revenue was plummeting, high-profile clients had jumped ship, and critics had labeled the gallery a relic of the past. Howard's refusal to adapt to the evolving art world, his insistence on catering to an increasingly narrow, elitist clientele, had tarnished the gallery's reputation. "It's up for sale," Robert said, leaning back in his chair. "Howard's desperate. He's trying to unload it for a fraction of what it's worth." Marcus stared at the file, a mix of emotion swirling inside him. The gallery that had once humiliated him was now struggling to stay afloat. The irony wasn't lost on him, but Marcus wasn't the type to dwell on revenge. Instead, he saw an opportunity, a chance to turn the space into something meaningful. "I want to buy it," Marcus said finally, his voice steady. Robert raised an eyebrow. Bold move. But if you do this, it needs to be through a proxy. Howard can't know it's you, at least not yet. Marcus nodded. Let's make it happen. The secret purchase. The process of acquiring the Livingston Gallery was both meticulous and covert. Robert enlisted the help of a trusted intermediary to handle the negotiations, ensuring that Marcus's identity remained hidden. The intermediary presented themselves as a private investor interested in revitalizing the gallery, a pitch that Howard, desperate to sell, eagerly accepted. When the deal closed, Marcus stood in the empty gallery for the first time as its owner. The space was eerily quiet, its white walls and sparse decor a stark reminder of the exclusivity and elitism it once represented. But Marcus didn't see a failing gallery, he saw a blank canvas. This is where it changes, Marcus said, his voice echoing in the empty room. This is where we make it matter. With the gallery officially under his control, Marcus began planning its transformation. He was determined to turn it into a space that celebrated diversity, inclusivity, and the power of art to tell stories that mattered. Rebranding the gallery. The first step was rebranding. The name Livingston Gallery carried too much baggage, a symbol of everything Marcus wanted to move away from. He renamed the space Ellis Contemporary, a bold declaration of its new purpose and identity. The gallery's mission was clear: to uplift underrepresented voices and create a platform for artists who had been overlooked by the traditional art world. Marcus assembled a team of architects, designers, and curators who shared his vision. Together, they reimagined the gallery's layout, replacing its cold, impersonal aesthetic with warmth, color, and life. The walls were painted in inviting tones, and the space was filled with interactive elements designed to engage visitors and encourage dialogue. The centerpiece of the redesign was a communal gallery space with comfortable seating areas and an open floor plan. Marcus wanted visitors to feel at home, to linger and connect with the art and with one another. The gallery also included dedicated studios for artist residencies, a library of art resources, and a multi-purpose room for workshops and community events. As the physical transformation took shape, Marcus worked tirelessly to curate the gallery's inaugural exhibit. Titled Breaking Boundaries, the exhibit featured a mix of his own work and pieces by emerging artists from diverse backgrounds. Each artwork told a story of resilience, identity, and transformation, reflecting the gallery's new ethos. One standout piece was a collaborative mural created by a group of young artists Marcus had mentored. Spanning an entire wall, the mural was a vibrant explosion of color and imagery that celebrated the power of community and the beauty of diverse perspectives. It became a focal point of the gallery, drawing visitors in and sparking conversations. Marcus also established partnerships with community organizations and schools, offering free art workshops and mentorship programs. He wanted Ellis Contemporary to be more than just a gallery, it was a space for growth, learning, and connection. A new beginning. As word of the transformation spread, excitement grew. Critics who had once dismissed the Livingston Gallery now hailed Ellis Contemporary as a groundbreaking addition to the art world. Collectors, curators, and art enthusiasts eagerly awaited the grand reopening, intrigued by the bold vision Marcus had brought to life. The reopening night was a celebration of everything the gallery had become. The space buzzed with energy as guests from all walks of life, artists, collectors, community members, and even some of Marcus's childhood friends, filled the gallery. The atmosphere was electric, a testament to the power of Marcus's vision. Standing in the center of the gallery, Marcus looked around, his heart swelling with pride. This was more than he had ever imagined, not just a victory for himself, but a victory for every artist who had ever felt unseen or unheard. As the evening unfolded, Marcus mingled with the guests, answering questions about the art on display and sharing the stories behind the gallery's transformation. He was no longer the artist begging for a chance, he was a leader, a trailblazer, and a force for change. Howard's ignorance. Unbeknownst to Marcus, Howard Livingston had received an invitation to the grand reopening. Intrigued by the buzz surrounding the gallery's transformation, he decided to attend, unaware that Marcus was behind it all. As he stepped into the space, Howard was struck by how unrecognizable it was. "This is impressive," he muttered, scanning the vibrant walls and the diverse crowd. But as the night went on, Howard began to piece together the truth. Conversations around him were filled with praise for Marcus Ellis and the vision behind Ellis' contemporary. When he finally spotted Marcus, standing confidently among the crowd, Howard froze. In that moment, Howard realized the full extent of what had happened. The gallery he had once ruled with arrogance and exclusivity was now thriving under the ownership of the very artist he had dismissed. And for the first time in his life, Howard was forced to confront the consequences of his actions. A vision fulfilled. For Marcus, the transformation of the gallery wasn't about revenge, it was about redemption. He had taken a space that once symbolized rejection and elitism and turned it into a beacon of hope and possibility. Ellis' Contemporary was more than a gallery, it was a movement, a declaration that art could be a force for connection, healing, and change. And as Marcus stood at the center of his creation, surrounded by the energy of the night, he knew that this was just the beginning. A legacy of change. A dramatic reopening. The night of Ellis' Contemporary's grand reopening was nothing short of monumental. From the moment the doors opened, the gallery buzzed with energy and anticipation. Word of its transformation and mission had spread far and wide, drawing an eclectic mix of attendees. Renowned art critics, collectors, emerging artists, and community members all gathered to witness the rebirth of a space that had once symbolized exclusivity and elitism. The gallery itself was a masterpiece. The redesign had infused every corner with warmth, vibrancy, and accessibility. Interactive installations encouraged visitors to engage with the art in ways they hadn't before, while strategically placed communal seating areas fostered conversation and reflection. The centerpiece of the evening, the exhibit Breaking Boundaries, featured works from underrepresented artists, each piece a bold declaration of resilience and identity. As guests mingled, the atmosphere was electric. Marcus Ellis, dressed in a tailored suit, moved through the crowd with a quiet confidence. For him, this night was not about personal glory but about celebrating a collective triumph. He listened intently as guests shared their thoughts on the artwork, each conversation reinforcing the importance of the gallery's mission. Unbeknownst to Marcus, one of the attendees was none other than Howard Livingston. Having received an invitation, Howard had decided to attend, curious about the buzz surrounding the reopening. He entered the gallery, expecting to find a familiar space. Instead, he was met with a scene that was unrecognizable. Howard walked through the exhibits, his sharp eyes scanning the walls. The sterile minimalism he had once championed was gone, replaced by bold, colorful pieces that pulsed with life. As he continued, he began overhearing snippets of conversation that hinted at the truth. "This gallery is Marcus Ellis's vision," one guest said. "He's completely redefined what this space stands for," another added. Howard's steps faltered as realization dawned. The gallery he had once owned, the one he had sold in desperation, was now thriving under the leadership of the very artist he had dismissed and humiliated. His face turned pale as he spotted Marcus across the room, surrounded by a group of admirers. In that moment, Howard felt a wave of humiliation and regret. The gallery that had once been a symbol of his power was now a testament to Marcus's resilience and vision. As the evening reached its peak, the room quieted as Marcus stepped onto a small stage in the center of the gallery. Through these initiatives, Ellis' Contemporary became more than a gallery, it became a hub for creativity, learning, and empowerment. Artists who had once felt invisible now had a platform to share their stories, while audiences were exposed to a diverse range of perspectives that challenged and inspired them. A symbol of hope and change. Marcus's story quickly became a beacon of hope, inspiring a movement toward inclusivity in the art world. Media outlets covered his journey, highlighting his transformation from a struggling artist to a trailblazing gallery owner. His speeches at art conferences and community events were always packed, his words resonating deeply with audiences. Marcus Ellis has not only redefined what it means to be an artist, he's redefined what it means to create change, one journalist wrote. His work reminds us that resilience, vision, and authenticity can break down even the most entrenched barriers. As Marcus looked back on his journey, he felt a deep sense of fulfillment. He had turned rejection into revolution, transforming a space that had once dismissed him into a beacon of hope and possibility. And as he stood in the gallery that bore his name, surrounded by the energy of a movement he had helped ignite, he knew that this was only the beginning. The legacy of Ellis Contemporary would endure, inspiring future generations to dream, create, and believe in the power of their voices.